This episode of The Unstarving Musician is powered by liner notes. Learn from the hundreds of musicians and industry professionals I've spoken with for The Unstarving Musician on topics such as marketing, songwriting, touring, sync licensing, and much more. Sign up for liner notes at unstarvingmusician.com. It's an email newsletter from yours truly in which I share some of the best knowledge gems garnered from the many conversations featured on The Unstarving Musician. You'll also be privy to the latest podcast episodes and liner notes subscriber exclusives. Sign up at unstarvingmusician.com. It's free and you can unsubscribe at any time. This is The Unstarving Musician. I'm Rabanzo. This podcast features conversations with independent music artists and industry professionals with relevant special topic episodes featuring yours truly, all intended to help indie music artists better understand the marketing, business, and creative processes that empower us to do more of what we love, make music. Welcome to another episode. Thank you for joining me. It is always a grand pleasure to be in your earbuds, on your speakers, on your Sonos, in your car, wherever you are listening to me. Before we get started, I want to share a valuable resource with you, my friends. It is another podcast called Gig Gab. It's the show for working musicians, and it's hosted by a couple of friends and former guests of this podcast, Dave Hamilton and Paul Kent. Gig Gab takes a fascinating and entertaining look behind the scenes at what it takes to put a live band on stage. Dave and Paul discuss everything from booking the gigs, getting paid, working with the crowd, prepping the band, learning the material, and managing the personalities involved, and more. And while the show is said to be for musicians, a surprisingly sizable chunk of their audience, according to Dave and Paul, are music fans who just love hearing about how live music is made. So if you're a fan of live music, playing it or watching it be played, be sure to check out Gig Gab at giggabpodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts. You're going to like it, I'm sure. You're going to love it. I guarantee it. Hey, listen, the Unstarving Musician needs your support, always. You can support us in many ways. You can follow us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your audio. Or you can visit unstarvingmusician.com/crowd sponsor or the show notes for this episode to learn about the many ways of offering your support. All right, I just finished editing for reformatting and editing for Instagram a video that I recorded in my home studio with a friend that lives nearby, actually just a street over. What a fortuitous neighbor who plays guitar. We recorded Blackbird by the Beatles, and you can find a clip of that on my Instagram at Rabanzo Drummer, and the full video on my YouTube channel, my artist YouTube channel, which is at Rabanzo, youtube.com/@Rabanzo. And I also should mention soundwow.com. They have created a ProLogic beginner's guide that I found out about because they reached out to me. They read an article that I'd written on unstarvingmusician.com about how I started recording after many years of never having done it, or many years since the last time I'd done it, and they wanted to know if my readers would be interested in their guide, so we put a link in there, and I think it's pretty good. They actually were kind enough to put a link to one of my Forbes articles on their website. I guess I'll put both of those links in the show notes for you, and I hope you enjoy them. If you're thinking about recording or thinking about using ProLogic as a newbie, I think that guide will be helpful for you. So my guest for this episode is Carter Ray. He is described as a cinematic raconteur, colorful with charisma and entertaining. That he is. He recently released a single called Forever Plus One that came out February 10th of this year, 2023. The song is a cross-genre EDM-inspired ballad, a declaration of unity to span a lifetime. I believe he told me it was inspired by his wife and was actually recorded for their wedding. Isn't that sweet? In 2014, Carter began documenting his transition from female to male on the internet in hopes of raising awareness and to help spread a message of love, validity, and the belief that no dream is too big, a message he so badly needed growing up. He's now the first trans male to host his own night, Heavenly Bodies, at the church at the Abbey in West Hollywood, showcasing incredible trans talent and representing the community in a very elevated way. With the award of Best Drama at the Queer X LA Film Festival. I hope I'm saying that right. Could be Queer 10. I think it's Queer X LA Film Festival for his debut short film, The Change Up. Over 500,000 plus followers across social media platforms. We talk about social media marketing. And thousands of streams of his music. He is a beacon of light and an influential advocate for the LGBTQ plus community. In our conversation, Carter and I talk about how acting led to his accidental start in music, headlining Gay Pride 2022, and how that came about, his monthly showcase that I mentioned in West Hollywood, his latest single, which I also mentioned, the inspiration for his first film, his merch ideas, and tips on getting better gigs, social media marketing, and content creation, and much more. He is a super nice guy. I really enjoyed learning about his journey and talking with him. I should let you know that Carter and I were having some audio difficulties and for about the first 10 minutes of our conversation, but it does get better. I do apologize for the poor quality in the beginning, but you can hear him. I hope you can put up with it, but it does get better. Here's me talking with Carter Ray. Tell me about your acting. It seems like as big a part or bigger maybe than music for you.
Acting for me has always been something I've always been interested in since I was a kid. When I started, really diving into it and creating myself, my own short films and features, and then diving into school and everything like that, I started to kind of my management team really came along and picked me up and really kind of had that guidance for me through the industry when I first started out because I didn't have any family members in the industry at all. So it was really difficult trying to figure out and navigate that whole situation. Like, how do I break into this? What do I need to do to really get started? And so I was fortunate after my short film that I wrote came out, I was contacted by my manager who I'm still with. I've been with her for many years now and she's the best. And, we were going through an audition process and one of the auditions had required, hey, does Carter have any musical background at all? And my manager was like, well, I'm pretty sure he sings, but I don't know, like, and so she had nothing to really send to the casting. So we talked afterwards when that was, that was one of I had a callback for that audition. So kind of, I felt like, was that what prevented me from getting that role? And we talked a lot about it and she was like, you should just put out one song, just make one song, make it good, and just, have fun with it. And then that way, when that moment comes along again, we have something to show them. So, that's kind of how music then kind of tapped into my life. For me, I did one song and it was just supposed to be for fun. And now I'm here making music every day with Sam, so my producer, and it's just been a really cool whirlwind because in a way, it's like music and film are very similar, but very different at the same time. They have their similarities, but they're also very different outlets. And it's been, yeah, I just have a love for storytelling. I think, you do that through a song, you do that through a film, so that's kind of been my experience with that. And it's weird. I feel like there's this new love in my life for music, so it's been really fun and interesting to experience.
And a little accidental, right?
And very, very accidental. Yeah, it was so funny. Me and Sam laugh about it because we did one song and it was just really just for fun. And then all of a sudden, after we released that song, I headlined San Francisco Pride last year, and they contacted me when I only had one single out, and they're like, "Hey, we want you to do a 20-minute set." And me and Sam are like, and it was in like 2 weeks, and we are like, "What? Like, what is happening right now? Like, am I doing music now? Is that a thing?" So it's like it's been really fun, and yeah, now I'm got a couple showcasing happening, and I have my night at the Abbey now, once a month. So that's been, I think, and I mean, it's because of music and just my, the visibility purpose, at the moment, and it's been really just a great, fun, interesting journey the past few months, especially. I mean, it's only been a year and a half pretty much since I really started doing music, so it's been a journey for sure.
Wow. It sounds like I'm getting a wee bit of static. It
Let's
just kind of
see.
started at the very tail end of
Okay, let's
your
see.
reply there. Hello.
Is that better?
Yeah, cleared up.
All right, there you go.
Very
Perfect.
good.
Work.
When we were talking about, or when you first started telling me about the acting part of who you are, you mentioned, sound like you mentioned film school?
Yes, yeah,
Or,
I went to I've done a few classes at UCLA, and that's been a really fun experience to work with other actors. It's so important to me to be able to network with and just connect with other individuals who are, passionate about the same thing. And that was actually this past winter is when I finished the course there. So that was a really fun, experience to have with film school. It's been that to me was honestly like to be as cliche as it sounds, like life changing, was to experience just learning and growing as an actor with other actors.
did the course completion come after you did the change up?
The Change Up actually was the very first film I ever did. It was the very first film I ever did, and the most screen time that I was a part of at that point in my life. It was I wrote the Change Up. This is I wrote it 5 years before we actually shot that. So it's really crazy to think of what goes into a 15-minute film. I wrote that though, in hopes to shed light on what it's like to be a trans person, experiencing life, finding love, and going through hardships, and struggling with acceptance from family. And it really was a character that I and a story I wanted to create and share, and it was really important to me that I did it the way that it deserved. And so that meant waiting a while to save up for the budget to be able to properly do that. And for me, at that point in my life, I was really going through a lot in my personal life, dealing with a divorce, and going through that experience was during the time that I was ready to shoot it, and I kept pushing it off, pushing it off, pushing it off because I wasn't in the right headspace to do it. And then things kind of just fell into place. It was just the right time, and there was a reason why it took me 5 years to shoot it, because at that point when we were ready to shoot it, I was going through the hardest point in my life, and it was really my healing process. Through that experience, I was able to really heal the way that I needed to and feel the things that I needed to, because I originally wrote that for young trans people to see that they can be loved and they can be accepted. And there I was really realizing this is not just a message to other people, but this is also a message to myself and a reminder to myself that I deserve the love and respect as an individual and from another individual. And I think that that was really important, that it took me that long to film that. And getting to do that with my closest friends at that time. My best friend was the set designer, and my very very dear friend Rachel was my producer on that film. And she really just I mean, she was a rock star. She was with me through the whole process. And funny enough, fast forward, we did the Change Up almost now 4 years ago, and I'm married now, and I have my beautiful wife who's just the best. And my producer of the Change Up actually married us, which was really fun for her to like see me go through a really rough patch, a while ago, and just be there along the ride, and then now to see me get married to the most incredible woman, and to actually be the one to marry us was such a amazing experience for me.
That's cool. I was trolling your Instagram and
Yeah, yeah,
saw
yeah.
pictures of you and your wife. She's very pretty and
She's
sounds like
very
she's talented too.
she's very talented. Yeah, she's an amazing photographer, and we make a great team that way. We have a production company, and so she is very very creative, and she's an amazing creative director as well.
That's cool. Nice to have in the family, so to
Yeah,
speak.
exactly.
So you mentioned that you headlined Gay Pride last year. Is that right?
Yeah, in 2022.
How did they find you?
It's funny. At first, I really didn't know. I was reached out to by my buddy Luther, who he does a lot of the bookings for a lot of events. They, I guess, had been asked to, connect to me with them. And so when that happened, the person that was producing the show, or the event, was, someone I didn't know, and his name's Nico, and he ended up wanting. I've seen your stuff on Instagram and online on YouTube. I would really like you to come perform and headline. And I was like, okay, cool. So of course, like, my manager did the deal, and then me and my team went up there, and it was like such a fun experience, because it was really like the first, like, it was a 20-minute set. It was a long set for me to do, and it was something very new to me. I had barely even been on stage before. I've only performed, musically on stage once. So, and it was like for like one song. So it was so interesting to just get kind of thrown into it like that, but to have like so much support. My producer came up with me, and my wife came up with me, and I had, my family basically, was like, that's my family. That's my Fia Nix, who's also a feature on one of my singles. She came up with us, and she was in the show with me, and so that was really comforting to have like another artist that you really trust to be with you on board. She's also like my best friend. She's getting married. We're just all it's like this group of family that we all just come together collectively and create together, and it's been such a beautiful experience to just see so much support from other artists that are in your everyday lives, but they're also like your friends too. And so going up there, as scary and like nerve-wracking as that was for me, because it was so new to me, it was such a good experience to kind of just get thrown into the lake and figure out how to swim, and that was cool. And I actually ended up becoming really good friends with the guy, Nico, who was the one that reached out about the booking. So he actually comes down here now. I book him for my show here in at the Abbey. So it's been really a cool, like, full circle moment.
Nice. Okay, Carter, unfortunately, I'm getting that sound again. So I want to send you a Zoom link and we'll just switch to Zoom
Okay,
audio
yeah.
only. There you are.
Is
Let
that
me,
better?
we'll find
Let's
out.
take your time.
So tell me about the Abbey and where are you located exactly?
Yeah, so I'm actually located. I live in West Hollywood, which we actually are moving literally a block over next week, which I'm very excited about. We just got approved for a house down the street, so I'm so excited for that.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's like crazy. It's like we weren't really expecting this so to happen so quickly. We got married back in September, so just it's one of those things where it came on the market. We're like, okay, we'll just apply and see what happens, and not really thinking of like, well, if we get accepted, what are we gonna do? When we did, it was like, oh, like, are we doing this? Like, is this happening right now? Like, so it's just like, but it's been like such a beautiful moment. I'm like, but now it's just like, when the unexpected happens, sometimes you just gotta like either just run with it or figure it out along the way. So we've been packing all week, but it's just on the street, so that's nice. And
Cool. So what is the Abbey?
the Abbey, yeah, is, it's the biggest, gay club in LA, or LGBT club, and the night there is really amazing. It's called Heavenly Bodies, and it was started a year ago, about a year and a half ago, with Sasha Colby, who's an amazing, beautiful trans woman. She's also on this season's Drag Race, and she has been a staple in the community. And when she started the night, it was a night where it was, she only booked trans individuals to be performers and dancers. And to me, I feel like that night is so important to be able to, for anyone who's feeling ostracized or an outcast, being able to be in a space where they are celebrated and highlighted. And I think that is so important to be able to witness and just know that you're not alone, to know that there are people out there that love you and accept you, and that there's nothing out of the normal with you, that you're made perfectly just the way you are. And I think it's so liberating for me to be able to, and I'm so honored to be asked by Sasha to take over that night and to be the one to now represent as a trans man, to be able to be that visibility purpose, especially right now with everything going on in the world and with all the bills that are getting passed and being, debated over. It's so important that I think that as young individuals, they see that there's a space for them, and whatever means that is, that there's just a place for them to be in this world. And I think that I'm so grateful to be able to do that night. It's every second Sunday of the month at the chapel at the Abbey in West Hollywood. And it's just a place to honestly just celebrate our uniqueness and our individuality.
Cool. All right, let's talk about your music. You have a relatively new single out, Forever Plus One, and
Yeah, yeah,
I was checking it out today. You have a
yeah.
very young sounding voice on it, and it's very up. It's got a cool vibe. I like it. Tell me about putting it together, both from the inspiration point and then even if you want to share some of the details of recording it too.
Yeah, yeah. It's so funny because I always laugh because it's Forever Plus One is, it's I wouldn't say it's like my artistry sound necessarily, but it was made so special because it was made for my wife for our wedding.
Mhm.
And uh the reason why I wrote that was, because when I first met her, we were talking about just, when you meet someone, you're dating them, you're just talking about your past relationships and your this and your that and getting to know each other. And she was asking me about a past relationship I was in and, if they ever went to any of my film festivals. And I had told her that like my past partner did not. And she, basically made a comment to me like I'll be your forever plus one, and that's kind of like where that like she'll always be at the event, she'll always be supporting me in whatever way that was. And I thought that's kind of been like our saying throughout our whole relationship. And then for our wedding I really wanted to do that song, and when I was recording it with Sam, I came to him like, okay, I want to make a song for my wife for our wedding, and Sam's also in my wedding, so he's my producer, and he was like, okay, let's do it. After we finished the song and we were finalized it, he was like, you know what? That song was really cute. Like, he was like, I was not expecting it to be like that. He was like really surprised. And it was kind of funny because I actually agree with him. I was like, yeah, I thought it was just gonna be a cute little moment, but like it came out really good. And I was really proud of that. And my wife was surprised. She didn't know I was gonna sing it at the wedding. So she knew I was gonna sing a song, but she thought I was gonna be covering What Dreams Are Made Of by Hilary Duff. So it was definitely a surprise. She was like, uh, she asked me and Sam as we were recording it, she heard anything. She just asked Sam, she's like, oh, how's recording the song for the wedding going? And Sam's like, it's going so well, you're not going to recognize it. So it was a funny moment. And she was so shocked when she heard me sing it to her at the wedding. And she was, of course, sobbing like she was just sobbing. She just had no idea that that was coming.
You guys are somewhat recently married, right?
Yeah, yeah, we got married September 30th.
And I'm sorry if you already said something to that effect. And like I
Oh no,
said, I'm
no, you're
moving a
fine.
little
No, no,
slow
you're good.
today. So,
No, yeah, you're good. You're good.
um,
No worries.
s- okay. So I think I was going to ask about the sort of journey between filmmaking, acting, and music, but I think you filled me in
Yeah, yeah,
pretty
yeah.
well. But I did want to ask you, I know you talked about some of the inspiration for doing the short, to talk about your journey and sharing it with others in
Yeah.
hopes of making them feel either inclusive or seen. But were there influences outside of that, like movies you saw when you were younger, or people you knew that sort of got you gave you the bug to make a film, your first one?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think for filmmaking, it's so special to me because it's the moment where you get to witness and see a journey in front of you just get, kind of reveal itself. And to me, when I was young and struggling with, you know, my gender identity at the time and struggling with who I was and kind of feeling alone in that regard, and growing up in a very Christian home and not really having anyone to turn to when it came to my battle within myself and figuring out who I was, I turned to TV and film. And I think as all of us do, we turn to, movies and to find characters that we can relate to and connect with. And for me, I think that was the problem, is that I didn't have any character on TV or film that I could really understand or relate to me. And the ones that I did find, the story wasn't told in the way that it could have been, or they weren't positive storylines. And I turned to, when I was looking for trans short or trans film at all, growing up, to have some type of relatability to any character that I saw. I watched, before my transition, I watched Boys Don't Cry, and if anyone's familiar, it's a very intense movie about a trans individual that, goes through some very intense hardships and, getting raped and getting, it was a very sad moment for me because I remember just watching this film and thinking, is this going to be my life? And it's a true story. So of course those stories, of course, need to be told. So it's kind of but like for me, I'm like, but there is also, and I do think those stories are important. I think that, but for me, I was like, I want to show success stories. I want to show, acceptance. I want to show, normalize what it means to be trans. So that's kind of really why I wanted to really deep dive into film and create that. And those stories, those true stories, and even the ones that are not true but are told incorrectly, those stories inspired me because I wanted to change the narrative. And I think that it's detrimental for anyone who hasn't experienced another trans individual to be able to see positive stories and to see how just typical we are, and I think that's so important for outsiders to also witness as well, not just for trans kids to connect with or to see themselves, but also for people who have no encounter with a trans individual to be able to see that it's nothing to be, it's nothing to be talked about.
Sure. Can people by chance catch your short, The Change Up, on your website or anywhere else?
Yeah, actually, the change up is on my YouTube channel. So anyone can actually just watch it on YouTube now. We ended up releasing it after it ran its cycle at all the festivals and everything like that. So it's just on my YouTube channel. Anyone can go to it, and you can just look up Carter Ray on YouTube and my channel will pop up, and it's listed in the uploads.
Okay, and I'm pretty sure you have a link, a YouTube link
Yes.
on your website at carterray.com, lest I forget to mention that website later,
Yes.
and all your other socials are there too. But I'll try to put a link to both
Yes,
in the show
absolutely.
notes for anyone who's curious.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to ask you some very sort of generic questions about
Yeah, yeah.
being an indie artist, and you can I, on this podcast, I'm always thinking music, but I've had people who are in film or film scoring and or
Yeah.
done acting and modeling and such. But I'm always coming from the musician
Yeah.
mindset. But answer, all encompassing, so it doesn't have to be just they don't have to be strictly about music. But I've found this year that some of our listeners are interested in these, again, maybe somewhat vanilla topics, but I think you'll agree they can be of importance. So
Yeah.
do you have any tips that you would offer when it comes to selling merch at like live shows or any events that you do?
I actually I don't do merch. I haven't. I've thought about it. I just feel like I haven't been able to explore that side of things fully. But I don't that's a good actually I would love to know that answer.
Well, so let's reframe that one. What kind of merch ideas have you been kicking around, assuming you've had
Yeah.
some specific thoughts about it?
Yeah, my wife actually has designed all my logos. So she does my font prints and also my YouTube logo that I have. And I've she actually made a denim jacket with the logo on it. With her we have a Cricut, so she just does the vinyl and the heat press. And she made some stuff for when we went to San Fran Pride. She made everybody in our group shirts, that was cute. I've thought about doing like I always wear snapbacks, so I would love it, like I would love to do a merch with I would definitely have snapbacks and I would definitely have hoodies.
Cool. Okay. Good to know. That's interesting. And your wife sounds like a gold mine on top of being
Oh
pretty and a
yeah,
good talented photographer.
she's talented at everything. There's literally nothing she can't do.
Okay, and then in regards to performing, and or it could be obviously could be acting too. What have you learned about, or what kind of tips would you share when it comes to getting better gigs?
Mm. it's all about what you put out. For me, whenever and honestly, it's starting out. I would say take the little things and treat it as if it's major. I think that's really important. I think that sometimes, even as an artist who's starting out will get, a gig that might not have all the fire underneath it, but it's just about showing up and like realizing why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you performing, for what purpose? Is it because you genuinely love it? And honestly, you can definitely, when I watch artists perform, I can really read why they're doing it. Like, you could tell if they're doing it for, just because they love the art form. Is it because they love sharing their story? Is it because they like to be there to interact, or are they just kind of like trying to make some money? To me, I really think connection in this industry is so important, and not in a superficial way, just like actually making genuine connections, helping out other artists as well, and showing up for other artists when you care for them and you enjoy what they're doing, and just being that person that always is going to come through for the people that you care for. And it's because, to me, I mean, I have those people in my life that are artists as well, and I show up for their events because I care about what they're saying, I care about what they're doing, and also they do the same for me. So it's just feeding each other that energy that we all need to get through.
How do you think the supporting other artists part translates into getting better gigs per se?
I mean, to be honest with you, I've gotten so many gigs just from that purpose alone. I've gotten that gig just from other artists that either can't make that they get offered a gig and they can't make it or something. They refer me. Because they are genuinely my friend and they're there to support me, and that to me kind of all relates into it. Or it's not, I don't want to say word of mouth necessarily, but it's like, oh, like, you got to book my buddy so and so. I do that all the time for my friends that I know are incredibly talented but also genuine people, and I do it for those people because they deserve it and they've made me feel the same way. So I feel like that's just how it goes. There's lately, especially lately, I've been connected really heavily with a bunch of producers and companies that are putting on events, and they're looking for performers, and I refer all of my friends because I believe in their art, and they're great, but they're also amazing people. So, and I 100% would say that they do the same for me.
It makes sense. Makes sense. And then on the topic of social marketing, social media marketing, when I thought about asking you this question, I was thinking to myself, your situation is pretty unique because of some of the things
Mhm.
you've done
Yeah.
about your life. And I don't know if you can translate that into something that's kind of all encompassing. I'm
Yeah.
sure you can, but can you sort of, it's kind of the same question, but for social media marketing, what have you learned, or what do you impart on others who are looking to up their game in that arena?
For me, on social media, when it came to that, like, networking side of things, it was really interesting. I just really documented my transition. This was 8 years ago, and I started kind of just taking videos of my journey, and then people along the way would just kind of follow with me, and that kind of support is very similar to what I was just chatting about. It's like having these people too, but in a different way. Of course, this is more like in the not that the music side is with my friendships are not personal, because that would not make any sense. But when it comes to just I would say strangers, in a way, like, these are people that I would never have met if it wasn't for social media. And those types of people that can make a really big strong impact in your life, and be there for you throughout the journey, and be able to kind of like amplify, especially with social media, things just blow up like a wildfire. So to be able to up your game on social media, the truth is to honestly just be very genuine, because people can read genuine, and like, that's how I feel. That's what I want to follow. Like, to me, I feel like we get caught up in these things that don't really matter, and these things that are like, why are people even feeding energy into these things? But then when I come across a page of someone you could just tell is a genuine person and has everything going on for them, it's like those are the kind of people that I want to follow. I want to follow those people that are very talented, but like very genuine, versus like, people that could care less about a stranger on the sidewalk. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to, like, I want to follow people that are putting out into the world things that you could just read it from them. You can just, I feel like I'm pretty good at reading people. So it's kind of like I could read, even on your social media page, I'll be like, okay, but being able to just be positive and to be able to be that example, I think is really important to be able to gain that platform underneath you.
Is it safe to say that the community you've gotten as a result of making those connections amplified, as you said, that sort of elevated your social marketing game over the many months and years?
Oh yeah, definitely 100%. I would definitely say like, yes, I do think it, ignited that for me. And I do think that that is a reason for my platform. But I also think that in the same sense, I think over the past, few years, I haven't taken that for granted, and I've made sure that, like, if you have a platform, you should be using your voice for the purpose and the message that you want to, display. It was important for me to always be visible. It was important for me to always speak up when things, take place, because of the fact that, like, I'm in a place of privilege where I am able to feel safe enough to do that, living in West Hollywood. But there's people right now that are literally having bills passed for them to be who they are. So in places that I'm not at. So I think that there's a duty for me to use my privilege and be able to be that voice for those people who cannot.
That's great. Okay, here's the last one for you. I'm assuming that this one has become of interest to listeners because it's just like it's a classic treadmill,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's another way of
yeah.
needing to be creative when maybe all you want to do is make music. But how do you, and I don't know if you're doing it all yourself now. Maybe you mentioned your team a couple times. You might be getting a lot of help. I'm not sure, but uh I assume that a lot of it still falls on you. But how do you go about creating content consistently and
Yeah.
keeping it fresh for yourself and for the community that you're serving on social?
Yeah, a good question, because this was something that it took me a long time to figure out. When I mentioned my team is my production company that I own, and we all work together, but I hire in my team, and they are incredible. I work very closely with just a selective group of people, very small. The best way that I kind of found out how to do that and to be consistent and everything like that stuff costs money. So I was like, I got to figure something out. How do I do this without, being able to still pay my bills? I ended up actually buying a cinema camera myself, and really honestly, like, teaching myself how to use it. And then really it comes back down to that, having genuine connections with people in the industry, that and also too in other areas of the industry. So for instance, the team that I work with an amazing set producer. Her name's Katie Loth, and she's absolutely incredible. And then also my DP that I work with a lot. His name's Aussie James, and he is a DP. So you have these different areas that they're better at than I am, but I'm also able to do, and we kind of all bounce off of each other and help each other out and do these things, and just kind of are in it for that, the purpose of honestly creating art together and being able to learn and grow together as individuals in our individual art forms. So I bought the cinema camera, and I just started shooting it all on my own, so I didn't have to really, like, or with this camera, instead of hiring out and paying thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for this production to happen, I just bought the camera. I looked up a bunch of YouTube videos. I went to YouTube University is what I call it, and it really taught me how to properly light something and how to make something look like it's high production value without being, a thing that is going to break my bank. And that kind of was the honestly, it was like, that's what I do now. So that's what I do. I literally am able to make high quality content that looks professionally done, which it is professionally done because we're professionals, but teaching yourself and learning how to do those things on your own and then being able to push it out. And honestly, like I have no problem now pushing out content because of that initial investment in the cinema camera. Yes, it's expensive to initially buy, but I was like, to me, that was a part of investing in your career. To me, that was a part of my, I think of it as tuition, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, buying that expensive product, yes, but then being able to either, you can do a payment plan on it, you can do anything you want, but then you're able to then constantly have content to be able to be created and pushed out. And that's kind of how I've navigated with being able to stay on top of basically having content 24/7.
And has your production business been successful? I don't know how long you've had it, but has it
Yeah.
been successful into helping to maybe absorb some of the costs and investments like of the high dollar camera, it sounds like,
Yeah,
and other things?
actually, I bought the camera a long time before my business even opened. So no, I actually bought that camera. I bought that 3 years ago. Yeah. So I bought it 3 years ago and I put it on the credit card. It was the reason why I opened the credit card, and I just was like, I'll make payments on it. And then it was a big expense, but you don't need the big expensive cinema cameras to have high quality product or content. Sorry, excuse me. You can definitely buy something that's not as expensive, but as long as you're like lighting correctly and the correct settings on the camera, or honestly, your iPhone, you have it in your hand, your pocket. These new iPhones have amazing cameras. Light it well, shoot it. You can make some high quality looking stuff just based on your iPhone. That's really also too the other really cool thing about technology now. Things are changing every day, and that the technology that I have on my brand, I have the 14 Pro Max, and it's like the camera's insane. If you have the proper lighting, which you can literally find videos on YouTube how to do, you can do it.
All right, so it sounds like DIY is
DIY,
is
baby,
the way to
all
go.
day long, baby, all day.
And I'm glad, and thanks for mentioning, like scaling it back down or back to an iPhone too, because I'm just sort of picturing the struggling artist in my head or somebody who's getting a little new at this and like, man, I'm not gonna go buy a cinema camera.
Exactly. No, honestly, that comes down to me having to be like, well, I used to do that before I was able to, to get approved for a credit card and all these things. Of course, like, there's things to consider. You really, I mean, if you have an iPhone, if you have, if you have an Android, baby, then listen, your texts are green. And I don't know. I'm just kidding. No, but no, but if you have an Android for real, like you could still make it work too. I actually think the Android has great camera now too. I think it's like there's always, I mean, listen, I would love to watch. How cool would it be to watch a music video that was like shot really amazing on like the old school flip phone cameras? I would love that. I think
Yeah.
that'd be so cool. Like the old razors, like like just like that'd be so cool.
Yeah, and it sounds like maybe well, an underlying theme of your answer there for the content creation too is to perhaps recognize things that we have a natural passion for and see how they might apply to making your music business or any other creative endeavor, how it can help make it go, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, whatever you want, regardless of your capability to be able to access certain things. I really do think that you can do those things, that whatever it is you want with the things that you have for the time being, because it just like shows like what you're capable of putting out with the resources that you're able to that you are able to have, in that moment. Like you can outsource and do to like obviously, yeah, there's gonna be certain levels of it, but just like do what honestly I just say like make what you can with what you have, and it's better than not making anything at all, and it will be amazing because of the fact that you put that into it. And that to me I think is really beautiful. I love seeing artists that really had an idea and a vision for something but had very little access to the things that they needed, and still put something out. Because it's like, to me it's frustrating when I see other artists kind of putting down an artist for a certain type of quality of something, because it's like, well, they could have done nothing. And honestly, I think it's beautiful that they did this, because I got to see a little bit of who they are and their passion for it. And the fact that they did put this out and that they did do this, because this, regardless of what someone else thinks, like, of it doesn't matter. It's still art. And to me, it's actually even more beautiful, in my opinion, because it's like they're doing what they're able to do. Like, that's the stuff I want to see. I want to see an artist just like really care about something and not, and just put it out and be vulnerable and like just let others experience their story.
I love that. Carter, it's really nice talking to you today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you taking the time and after your late night and getting able to just get on here with me and have a chat. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, me too, man. Thanks a lot. If you do not yet have a website for your music, check out Bandzoogle. It was created to help musicians and bands build their website and manage direct-to-fan marketing and sales. Bandzoogle features amazing design options, a commission-free store to sell merch, music, tickets, and you get detailed fan data. And there's more. Try it free at bandzoogle.com. Use the promo code ROBONZO, that's ROBONZO, to get 15% off your first year. You've been listening to The Unstarving Musician with Robonzo. That's me. Please follow us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. You can find links and mentions for this episode at unstarvingmusician.com. Thanks again for listening. Peace, gratitude, and a whole lot of love.